The San Francisco 49ers get one player back at practice that's been out all year, Malik Mustapha. What difference he'll make for the secondary, and who else not practicing for that bonus practice Monday, coming off a big win for the San Francisco 49ers, headed towards the Bucs in Week 6 on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker with you, as always, at BD Peacock, at Coach Crocky. Thanks, everybody, for making this your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Love our everydayers. Thanks for hanging with us through 5 weeks. Let's keep it going. Niners in a good place, man. In a really good place right now after 5 weeks of the NFL season. A really big game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We're going to rank the Niners versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and other teams that are 4-1 right now, other teams in the NFC, kind of restack things after a quarter of the season, see where the 49ers are versus the rest of the league and their percentage to make the playoffs, according to ESPN analysts and the data scientists behind the scenes that come up with such things. But first, Croc, we got a whole bunch of news about the San Francisco 49ers and their bonus practice, they call it, coming off of a short week last week. You get a long week this week. You get a bonus practice. Doesn't sound like they did a lot at this bonus practice, and a lot of players not out there for the 49ers. But we got to start with safety Malik Mustapha. Second-year safety, was a phenomenal rookie last year for the 49ers, and his practice window has been opened for the Niners, and he was at least back in practice and warming up and at least practicing in a limited fashion. According to Matt Barrows, it was a very brief view that reporters got of what was going on at practice. So don't know exactly how practice went, what exactly they did, who was practicing in full or not, and we'll get a better outlook of that later on in the week. But as of now, and that very brief look, it looked like Malik Mustapha was warming up with the DBs and getting ready to do a little bit of his first practice of the 2025 season. So that's fantastic news on a player that should no doubt bolster the secondary when he is back, whether it's week 6 or maybe even week 7.
Yeah, that's going to help a lot right now. You know, the 49ers, I think they miss Malik Mustapha, and they've had some young guys playing and some veterans, but Siegel right now just not 100% ready to be a full-time starter. Now, in a perfect world, you would kind of like a scenario like Talanoa Hufanga. If you guys remember back, 49ers had Jimmy Ward, they had Jaquiski Tartt, and those were their guys, where Tartt ended up getting injured, and then you inserted Talanoa Hufanga, and that allowed him to kind of have some hiccups, but also kind of build up some confidence. And then, you know, later in the season, as you saw, it was Tartt kind of splitting time with Talanoa Hufanga. But it wasn't until the next year where Hufanga was, without a doubt, the de facto starter in the secondary. And I think that's what the 49ers would ideally like to do with Siegel, not just have him come in and, hey, week 1, you're the guy, without ever taking a snap in the NFL. And, you know, went up against Matthew Stafford last week, obviously a terrific quarterback. And this week coming up going against Baker Mayfield, who damn near looks more terrific than Matthew Stafford right now. So, you know, when you're having these veteran guys, you would hope, and we don't know when Malik Mustapha is coming back, hopefully for this game if he's 100%, but maybe it's in the next few weeks because he has that window open. You want him back on the field as soon as possible.
Some folks asked us to take a look at some quarter season awards. We might do that a little bit on Winky Wednesday tomorrow. And I do want to talk again about, you know, where the 49ers are potentially, I think, more likely now to pursue a little harder, potentially an edge rusher. It's some of the subjects we're going to talk about on tomorrow's episode of Locked On 49ers. As far as Mustapha goes, I mean, dude, Baker Mayfield completed, what, 88% of his passes or something like that. You need all the secondary help you can get against the guy that right now might be a front runner for MVP of the league. That's how well Baker Mayfield is playing right now, and that Tampa Bay Buccaneers football team. So Malik Mustapha at least back at practice. We'll get more indication later on in the week, you know, if he's going to play this week or if it'll be next week. And but his practice window is open. And it's very good news for the 49ers. And so when it comes to Siegel and Pinnock, and we were asked to discuss this in our live episode yesterday. We didn't have time to talk about it yesterday, but I think it's a bigger topic that we wanted to spend a little bit more time on today. And when Malik Mustapha is ready, he's going to jump right into the starting lineup. I think that's absolutely clear. You mentioned Siegel, and he's had I think he's acclimated fairly well to the NFL from college football. I think if the question is long-term, what the 49ers want, I think clearly the 49ers would love and would hope that it is Malik Mustapha paired with Marcus Siegel long-term as the safety tandem, potentially. And, Siegel being a guy who ran 4.3 something, right? Coming out of college, you would hope that, he has the range to be a safety and be a free safety and play a lot of single high stuff and allow Malik Mustapha to be the human missile, I think is what Diamador Lenore called him today. He could be that guy and be a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage, but we know the 49ers like to exchange safeties and move a guy up, drop a guy back. And the strong safety has to play a little middle of the field and the free safety has to come down sometimes into the box. And sometimes one or the other will be in the slot, manning up and being on top of a receiver or a tight end. So you have to have a varied skill set to be a safety for the San Francisco 49ers. And I think both guys are. But as you mentioned, if I had to guess, whenever Malik Mustapha comes back, I think what ends up happening is Pinnock probably stays in the starting lineup, at least in the short term. And that could be a week. It could be a couple of weeks. It could be a month. It could be the rest of the year. But I think Siegel at some point, it will be Siegel and Mustapha, but it'll probably be Mustapha and Pinnock at first. And the guy that really drops off from a snaps percentage, I would think that Siegel becomes the number 3 right away, at least. And then potentially Jair Brown is the one that suffers the most. But I wouldn't be shocked at all if Siegel ends up being the starter with Mustapha. And then it would be, okay, who's the number 3 safety? Is it Brown? Is it Pinnock in that case? But I think, you don't want to expect too much and put too much on your rookies right away, which is why I say long-term, yes, Siegel. Short-term, it might still be Pinnock.
Also, because he has always been listed as a safety, Siegel, the way he played in college is a lot different than how the 49ers are asking him to play. He was more in what we talked about. He was like Jalen Petrie. He was that nickel, that kind of slot defender, even though he's listed as a safety. And he clearly has the size of a safety at 6 foot, 200 pounds. He has speed. He has all those things. But he was more of a kind of a slot, hook curl, flat defender, walling off guys, which a lot of what we saw from Petrie. So I think there is a transition that is happening with moving back and playing in more space and understanding how to match certain routes vertically and do all these things. That's not to say he can't. That's not to say he hasn't had good reps. He has. But as far as the consistency goes, I think he has to continue to grow as more of a pure safety as opposed to how he was used at Kansas State.
I want to talk a little bit more about some of the rookies, some of the players who were and were not on the field for the San Francisco 49ers in their bonus practice on Monday. And also, you shouldn't be alarmed with players not on the practice field on this Monday. It's an extra practice. The 49ers want to get healthy and want to utilize their long week. So I would assume they're not getting after it and going crazy on this Monday practice. But some interesting notes from who was also working out on the side field who could be ready very soon, even if they're not ready to jump into practice just quite yet. Coming up next. This episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by PrizePicks. Every day we make decisions, but on PrizePicks, being right can actually get you paid. So don't miss the excitement of this football season with PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. Playing PrizePicks is such fun. It's so simple, and it is a way to add more excitement to your football weekends. You just pick more or less. It's super simple. You pick 2 or more players. You pick more or less on player projections like Josh Allen's passing yards or Saquon Barkley rushing for a touchdown, or let's say Christian McCaffrey getting, 100 combined yards. And some of those are very good bets, and it's a little bit easier to go more or less on some of those things, right? Or you can get a little bit more rare with your picks as well. And it's all fun, and you can do it at all at PrizePicks. And how about the new injury reboot feature on PrizePicks? If your player leaves early and doesn't return, it will not count against you. And PrizePicks just added stacks. So if you want to ride with the player, you can select their pass yards, rush yards, and touchdowns all in one lineup. So download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. This episode also brought to you by Doer, man, and I've been reaching for my new favorite pants, my Doer jeans, almost every day. I've got the performance denim, and I've also got the no sweat pants, and both are ridiculously comfortable. Both are great for just about any occasion, work, play, whatever it is, a little night out. You can do it all in your Doer jeans, and Doer is the most comfortable jeans that I've ever owned. Doer has 5 times the stretch of traditional denim, and they feel stretchy without looking stretchy. And the key is because they basically take classic jeanswear style, and you wouldn't know by looking at Doer jeans how comfortable they are, but it's the kind of comfort and performance you get from athletic wear. So it is basically the best of both worlds. And there's a reason why they call them the world's most comfortable jeans. And you don't have to take our word for it. You can go try on a pair yourself, because they opened a brand new store right here in San Francisco, the Doer store, Hayes Valley. Go check them out at 567 Hayes Street and mention our promo code LOCKEDONSF in store and get 15% off your first order, or go check them out online at shopdoer.com/LockedOnSF. That's Doer, DUER, for 15% off. Shopdoer.com/LockedOnSF. All right, Croc. We're going to Matt Barrows for our reporting here today, and in that very brief look at practice that reporters got on this bonus practice Monday, coming off of a short week and into a long week, players who were not on the practice field, according to Matt Barrows: quarterback Brock Purdy, Ricky Pearsall not at practice, D. Winters not at practice, and then the veterans who kind of already, you can kind of assume, aren't going to be on the practice field on Wednesdays every week and are not going to be on the practice field if there's extra work happening, and that is Christian McCaffrey and Trent Williams. So those were the players not on the field. That's not indicative of if they'll play or not, because I would assume Christian McCaffrey, Trent Williams will be like they always have been and will be playing, but they're just getting the vet days off. Maybe not the same for Brock Purdy and Ricky Pearsall. We'll have to find out about D. Winters a little bit later on in the week. Here's an interesting one, though, Croc. On the side field, George Kittle doing a little bit of running. And so hopefully getting close to coming back. A number of players that have been out or that played and got a little banged up in the last game: Upton Stout, Alfred Collins, Ben Barch, Jordan Watkins, Robert Beal, and Derek Canteen, along with George Kittle, were players that were running on the sideline but not necessarily participating in practice. And obviously George Kittle can't practice because his practice window officially has not been opened. And according to Kyle Shanahan, that's most likely going to be next week, potentially, for George Kittle to get back on the practice field and hopefully play for the 49ers in week 7. Not looking like that's going to happen for week 6 for George Kittle. So that is the Monday practice report, Croc. Does anything stand out to you there? I'm sounding a lot more like, and especially the reports that we saw from Brock Purdy later on in the week about aggravating his toe. Sounds like it still might be a little while for Brock Purdy to get back out there. And the way that Mac Jones is playing, they shouldn't rush him. And you know what? They shouldn't have rushed him probably against the Jaguars.
You know, I have a question about Brandon Ayuk. So obviously his window has not opened, and the last reports we got was it's not close to really being out on the field yet. Is there a window to the window? Like, is there a certain time where you have to open up his window, or he'll just be on IR for the entire season?
I think no is the answer to that, unless they use up all of their return IR slots. And these rules kind of changed a little bit. And basically since COVID, I can't keep up with the rules change, because they changed, and some changed back and some kind of changed a little bit more. And it used to be you could only bring a couple of players back, and then I think it was 4 players you could bring back. And to be honest with you, I'm gonna have to look that up, because I can't remember how many players you can bring back from.
I feel like it's 4
from IR now. Is it still 4? I feel like they might have changed it even again, but I think at least you can bring 4 guys back from IR, and you know, let us know in the comments, and we'll have already looked it up by then. But unless they use all of their return slots, then I think you can wait and open that practice window all the way up in, you know, December or even January, before the playoff run. Yeah, so I would assume like some point in December is kind of the last chance you have to open that practice window.
All right, here we go. In the NFL, a team can bring back a maximum of 8 players from the injured reserve during the regular season, with an additional 2 designations allowed for the postseason for a total of 10 players per season.
There you go. Okay. So that's
a lot more than 4.
Yeah, the 49ers ran into that problem where they had too many guys to bring back from IR before. So that's grown to the point where you're much less likely to run into a situation where you've used up all of your IR return slots.
Well, if you, let's say it's 8, right, regular season. Well, you already got Brandon Ayuk. You already have done now George Kittle, Malik Mustapha. I mean, that means there's only 5 more spots. And I'm pretty sure there's people that I'm forgetting right now that potentially may come back. But there's 5 more guys not knowing who may get injured from here on out. I mean, we're still in the first, or just getting out of the first quarter of the season.
Yeah, so they are on pace to use them all.
Yeah.
And I guess to be honest, we should probably. There's no guarantee that Brandon Ayuk is going to return from IR this year. Like you would think he would, but we are 5 weeks into the season, and the way that it sounded, it was not close. So we're talking at least second half of the year. So we're already into November at that point potentially, when Brandon Ayuk could return from IR, and if it's if it's more than a 12-month thing, then maybe it's so late in the year. But if the Niners are, in a playoff push, I would assume they would bring him back. If it was like it was last season, where they're only a 6-win team, they might wait and not bring a player back. Although,
that's what I was thinking. Do you kind of wait it out and see where the season is? I mean, at no point do I think they're going to rush him back. Again, now, different injuries. He had ACL plus some other stuff, but Stephon Diggs had like 140 yards last night, and he tore his ACL 1 week after Brandon Ayuk. But again, Brandon Ayuk, multiple things. So it's not just, okay, I had my surgery and I'm good. It was like I had my surgery, then they had some other stuff they had to fix. But I was just a little jealous of New England. Watching Stephon Diggs running around 150 yards and having fun, talking trash. I'm like, I miss my guy Brandon Ayuk being out there. Super competitor.
George Kittle is so important. Talked about the numbers last week where the 49ers run game, when he's on the field and off the field, is 1.5 yards per carry or more of a difference when he's playing. So that's obviously huge for the 49ers. That'll probably help the run game a little bit. You probably want Ben Barch back as well. So good to see him running on the sideline. The rookies, Collins and Stout, you hope they're up to being able to play and practice later on in the week. Collins came down with that injury. Collins is a tough one because you got to limit his snaps because he was so gassed in that game. And he got, fantastic marks, and his PFF grades were really high, and he had this huge grade against the run, partially because of that one big play. But you got to always also remember it was a small sample size because he was only on the field for like 9 rushing plays, and then one of those was a forced fumble. So it's going to skew a small sample for his grades. I saw a lot of people talking about his PFF grade, and I would kind of slow down on that. He did have a good game and obviously made the biggest play potentially of the entire game. But right now, Collins is still a part-time player. You got to make sure he stays healthy and make sure that you can utilize his ability probably by limiting his snaps, because I just don't think he's got enough legs under him and lungs under him to play a full benefit of a game's snaps. So
they may need to do what I think it's Tampa Bay with the defensive tackle out of Florida. I mean, now he was 400 and something pounds, something crazy.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But they put him on like essentially a workout plan. It's like you can't touch the field until it was like drop your weight to a certain amount, or it was something odd like that. But it was damn near to protect himself. But I don't know. I guess there's a couple ways to look at it. Like, don't put them on the field until they're ready. Alfred Collins, clearly he can be out there and he can play. And there's more snaps in games help him with his conditioning as well, kind of like forcing him to go through that. Like, how does he improve his conditioning? Well, my guys, it's the more running you do, the better prepared you are to be able to do it in the game. Yeah. So at the NFL level, there's no conditioning that goes on in practice. You kind of have to figure out a way to condition yourself.
Well, there was a report that he lost a bunch of weight too, working out, and Bosa helped him out with it. And so just going through the process of his first training camp, apparently he lost a lot of pounds too, even though he wasn't, fully involved for a long time in the off season with the calf injury. But you just saw, I think it's more lungs than anything. You saw how he was breathing through the oxygen machine on the sideline. And when he wasn't the only one. When they were zooming in late in that game, a lot of guys played a lot of snaps, and Collins' snaps have grown every week, which is a good sign. But they were, hands on their hips. They were sweating. They were breathing really hard. And so it wasn't just Collins, but Collins, I think, looked like he was gassed the most of all of them, which would be understandable for the rookie who missed a lot of the summer. But, keep him fresh and limit his snaps so he can have the biggest impact when he is on the field. I think it's the right way to play for Collins right now. And he can split some snaps with CJ West and Kalia Davis, obviously, and Jordan Elliott too. So that's kind of the rotation right now for the 49ers. Interior defensive line, and Stout as well. You want him healthy and back out on the field, because he's been a very nice find for the 49ers for a rookie class that's really standing out again for the Niners. Back to back, looks like really solid rookie classes. All right, Croc. Oh, you muted.
You're going to need him. I think the NFL needs to bring back conditioning. Matter of fact, ask 49er fans, with every practice that you've been at, how many times have you seen the 49ers condition? You don't see it at the NFL level. It's just you are a professional. You're being paid to take care of your body. You are expected to come into camp and all those things in shape. But once camp starts, if you're not doing some of the things that you did to get you to that point, there's a chance that your conditioning can kind of drop off a little bit. And you got to figure out different ways to continue to stay in shape. The way we did it, now this wasn't the NFL, but in the Arena Football League with the San Jose SaberCats, was after every play you had to turn and sprint 10 yards, and just after every rep in practice, every rep. So if we have, typically what you do is like, first team goes for 6 plays, second team goes for 6 plays, first team goes for 6 plays. You kind of do it like that. But if you turn and sprint and just get 10 yards after every rep, man, we were the most conditioned team in all of the league. And in the fourth quarter, it showed big time. I think that's something that the NFL can maybe adopt, so you don't just have these multi-million-dollar guys, doing sprints after practice.
And a lot of guys are really good at looking like they're doing a ton of work in the offseason on the gram. But I wonder how many guys are putting in like the true hours, because, you have your Christian McCaffreys where you can't get him out of the gym. But you probably have some guys that are like, hey, let's go do it for the gram for a little bit, and then let's go hit the club or, the couch.
You got to sprint. Like you have to sprint. I mean, you got to sprint 110s or 40s, sprint, 30, 20 times. One thing that I like to do with my players is they sprint the whole field. So they'll sprint 10s, walk back, sprint 20, walk back, sprint 30, walk back, sprint 40. You do that all the way down the field. That's something that we like to do. But you got to figure it out, because if you're not sprinting, don't run miles. Miles is completely different when it comes to being in shape or running. You have to do sprints. Football plays, I believe the average time is 6 seconds. So you want to do things where you're stressing for 6+ seconds, 6 to 10 seconds, conditioning your body in that way. But you can't stop once training camp starts. You got to keep it going.
Stationary bike's not going to get it done.
The CrossFitters would tell you otherwise. They get on that assault bike and you have to, essentially burn out for 20 seconds. It can get pretty hectic. I think that would help.
Burnouts. You got to do burnouts at least. All right. Let's rank the San Francisco 49ers versus the other best teams in the NFL, which they are, if you're going by record, one of next. This episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. In fact, Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS top safety pick awards than anyone else. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Burnouts, conditioning, right? Mazda brings the same intention to how they craft every model. It is ready for short distances and long distances just the same. And you could feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. And take it from me, I've been driving a Mazda for the last 10 years, and you can feel the difference instantly when you sit in a Mazda, how nice it is on the interior, and especially how it drives. Smooth handling, intuitive controls. It outclasses everything. And with all-wheel drive standard, every crossover SUV you could drive with confidence through almost any season. And like the players on the field, Mazda sweats every detail, because When you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. The San Francisco 49ers sit at 4-1 after 5 weeks of the season. Miraculously, in some ways, that the 49ers are here right now. And so a great place to be. And in fact, if you look at the NFC playoff picture, Brock, according to ESPN analytics, the San Francisco 49ers have they're tied for the third best odds to make the playoffs in the NFC. 78% chance to make the playoffs, 40% chance to win the division, and at least a 12% chance to earn a bye in those playoffs, and a 10% chance right now to make the Super Bowl is where ESPN Analytics has the San Francisco 49ers. They're tied at 78% chance to make the playoffs with their Week 6 opponent, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So that's tied for third. Only the Detroit Lions at 83% and the Philadelphia Eagles at 93% have better odds to make the playoffs in the NFC this year than the San Francisco 49ers.
I think one of the best things the 49ers have going for themselves, which really should increase their chances of making it to the postseason, is that they are 3-0 in the division right now. I think we were hoping that, hey, 49ers, if they can start off kind of, 2-1, 3-2, something along the lines of that in the division, that should increase their chances. But to start out 3-0, and you're kind of looking at it like, well, I expect the 49ers to continue to improve, continue to get better, continue to get healthier. And right now they are sitting very pretty in the sense of just winning the division, because that's the first goal. Everyone wants to talk about the Super Bowl and conference championship and the playoffs and all those things. But the first goal for every team in the NFL, win your division. And right now, the 49ers starting off 3-0, they've really helped themselves to start the season.
Yeah, and those division wins, those conference wins, the Niners are 3-0 in the division, 4-0 in the conference. So if you pick the 49ers to lose any game in the first 5 weeks, you would have wanted it to be the AFC team, the Jacksonville Jaguars. So the Niners looking good in tiebreakers. In fact, if the season ended today, the 49ers would be the 2 seed in the NFC behind the Philadelphia Eagles. And I got some questions about this. The Eagles would win the tiebreaker over the 49ers right now based on they're all undefeated in the division and conference. So it would go to strength of victory, which would be the next one. And the Philadelphia Eagles have just beaten combined better opponents records than the San Francisco 49ers have. So that's kind of the double-edged sword. You have an easier schedule, but that also means your strength of schedule is going to hurt you in the tiebreakers, but it's going to help you win games in the process. So it's still better to have an easier schedule than a more difficult schedule. But of course, there's 4.
Real quick on the strength of schedule thing. Yes, the Philadelphia Eagles are ahead of the 49ers, but the 49ers are ahead of the next 2 teams with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Detroit Lions as far as their strength of schedule. So it's not as if the 49ers haven't played anyone and, oh man, they're just lucky that they've had this super easy schedule. No, like
Right.
they're in a good spot. They're in a good spot.
Absolutely. How would you rank the 49ers though? Like, so that's what the records say, and that's the tiebreakers. But how would you rank them, Croc? 49ers against the Philadelphia Eagles, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Detroit Lions. Let's start there with the 4-1 teams right now in the NFC.
So I actually like the 49ers more than the Philadelphia Eagles. And obviously, this is me anticipating that the 49ers are going to continue to get healthy. Right? That's a lot of hope there. But when I look at Philadelphia Eagles, you actually just watch them play. They don't really have a passing game. They don't. So one of the weaknesses for the 49ers right now is that they can't really generate a pass rush. Well, if you're playing against a team that isn't great throwing the ball, and now they want to play, they want their play style kind of matches up with what the 49ers do well, which is, hey man, they could do some good stuff against the run. So if the 49ers are able to be more aggressive with stopping the run, stopping Saquon Barkley, stopping Jalen Hurts on the ground, I like their chances of being able to kind of load up on one thing as opposed to a team that's making you play a little bit more honest, especially through the air. Like through the air, that's more difficult, I believe. Like just a team that can throw the ball and now they can keep you off balance, because even if you can't run the ball very well with just the 49ers right now, eventually teams are going to have to respect the passing game. It's going to lighten the box, and then that should help you be able to run a little bit better. But when it's vice versa and you're a team that doesn't throw well, but you can run the hell out the ball, if I'm the 49ers, let's force them to fight with one hand behind their back and all right, now become a passing team. And can you beat us that way? That would at least be the way I do it. Maybe I lose that battle, but that's how I would go about it. So as far as some of the teams that you talked about, I like them more than Philly. Detroit, I still like Detroit more. I just think they're more dimensional than the 49ers. 49ers really struggling to be able to run the ball. And then when you have a team like Detroit, quarterback is still playing very well. They got a lot of weapons with Sam Laporta. I mean, he's just an awesome tight end right now. Obviously, St. Brown, Jamo Williamson, Williams, a lot of speed there. And then in the backfield, you got Thunder and Lightning. You got Montgomery, and you have Gibbs. I mean, those guys are tough. So I think just because they're so well-rounded, even though I think they can be had a little bit more defensively, but their offense, there's so much to it. I think that makes them probably the most difficult team to match up against in the NFC.
Man, it's hard for me, and maybe some of our listeners will get mad at me, but I feel like the 49ers have to be 4 out of those 4 teams, just based on what they have available right now. If you project forward ahead to what the team might be January 1st, with a healthy Brock Purdy and a healthy George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk healthy and back, and he's the same guy, you're still not going to have Nick Bosa at that point. But right now, and I could buy the argument a little bit more, but I think right now, I think so, and we'll see what happens with the line. I think the Buccaneers are going to be favored over the 49ers this week. In fact, the line's probably already up. I just haven't looked at it yet because it's on the road, right? It's in Tampa. I think the 49ers would be the underdog to all 3 of those teams right now, according to FanDuel and the Vegas odds. And I think they probably should be, just because they're more undermanned top to bottom than the other teams are, even though they've got a little magic. And the 49ers earned the right to be 4-1 and be in this conversation with these teams. I think the 49ers would be 4-4. I'd probably go Philly, Detroit, Tampa, 49ers in that order. And I get what you're saying about the passing game for the Philadelphia Eagles, but you're saying you'd rather have, I don't know, Mac Jones and Kendrick Bourne and Marcus Robinson and Hurts and A.J. Brown and and Devontae Smith, because that's a tough sell.
If you're asking me whose passing game would I take, I would take Mac Jones, DeMarcus Robinson, and Kendrick Bourne with Christian McCaffrey out the backfield over what the Philadelphia Eagles have going on. And it's not Devontae Smith or A.J. Brown's fault. It's not their fault at all. It's Jalen Hurts. And Cam Newton was right when he was talking about him. Terrific runner, terrific playmaker. And if every game was the Super Bowl, I'd be like, oh, take them. Because he plays lights out in the Super Bowl. But if we're just talking about regular season and kind of how things stack up, I got a passing game. So it's like, you're just not really scared of them.
So what you're telling me is the 49ers have not 1, but 2 quarterbacks that are better than any quarterback on the Eagles roster.
Throwing? Yes.
Yeah. As far as the passing game goes, it hasn't gotten going. Well, I will say that there was a play where A.J. Brown kind of shut it down, and it looked like it was an overthrow from Jalen Hurts. But I think
he shut down on that play? I thought he just missed him.
It might have been still off the fingertips long, but it looked really long because the timing was messed up. Because A.J. Brown, when he finished his final move, he kind of like slowed up for some weird reason. Like he expected to not get the ball, and then he turned and he's like, oh crap, the ball actually is coming to me, and then he couldn't get there anymore. And it might have still been overthrown, but I would put that route on A.J. Brown more than Hurts. Just that one specific play, at least. But yeah, there's something off with the passing game, surely. Well, they haven't needed the passing game because they've run the ball so well. And then they kind of got away from the run and tried to do the pass, and then they lost the football game.
It's not just a 2025 thing.
Yeah.
Last year, this was, let me see. Here we go. Show you guys a visual of this, of what was going on over in Philly. They had him on the sideline reading books. A.J. Brown was on the sideline. He was so disgusted with the passing game. He was on the sideline reading books. Okay? Have you ever seen that before? We've seen a lot of stuff. 49ers had Terrell Owens. I mean, he was a character in itself. A.J. Brown was on the sideline reading books because they couldn't figure out how to give him the ball. And if you look at, even right now, they are actually targeting him. I'm going to pull up his game log so you can kind of hear and see what's going on with this passing game. It's really weird. It's really odd. All right. And Jalen Hurts threw for 280 yesterday, but it was like an ugly 280. All right. Here we go. AJ Brown. Game log. All right. Played the Dallas Cowboys week 1. 1 catch, 1 target for 8 yards. The next game, played Kansas City. 5 catches for 27 yards. Now, he did have a big game against the Rams, went off for 109 yards. He had 10 targets, 6 catches in that game. But then the next game against Tampa Bay, 2 catches on 9 targets for 7 yards. And then last game, 5 catches on 8 targets for 43 yards. I mean, just for a guy of his stature and his ability and what he is, and you talk about him kind of shutting it down on the plays, right? Like, man, he doesn't know what to expect from one play to another. So that's probably more frustration than anything else.
No doubt. And I know that more than anybody what those stats look like the first 5 weeks because I got them on my fantasy teams because I'm a fan of AJ Brown. And you know what that all leads to, Croc? Hashtag free AJ Brown. Let's get AJ Brown off the Philadelphia Eagles ugly roster, ugly passing game roster, and get it on the beautiful Kyle Shanahan passing game roster, or really any other roster in the NFL. I would also put, I know they're only 2-1-1 right now, but I'd put the Green Bay Packers in that group of teams with the 49ers. Then after that, you got like the Seahawks and some other teams. And Niners already beat the Seahawks. Might be a step below what those top 5 teams are right now in the NFL record-wise. And I wouldn't fight someone who said the 49ers aren't one of the 4 best teams, but I also can't fight you if you say the 49ers deserve to be at the top because they've got that record right now, and they've earned that right to be at the top. 2 seed currently in the NFC, those San Francisco 49ers, hopefully getting healthier into week 6. More about those Tampa Bay Buccaneers and who is in and who is out for the San Francisco 49ers this week on Locked On's 49ers. Make sure you are subscribed up and tune in daily. Little Winky Wednesday tomorrow. Another crossover. We got James Yarko coming up of Locked On Bucks for that one. And then one more pregame, and we're on to week 6 right here. Locked On 49ers.